So this is a video I've been wanting to record for a while. I'll say about 2 to 3 months. I've been thinking about this. By the way, it's going to be a little bit different. If you guys, some of you guys are subscribed to my, I'll call it my secret channel. I don't really promote it much because there's not really much over there right now, but I've released a couple of videos that are like rants, right? They're a lot like this, and that's what this is going to be. Now, I know the title of this video is How to Overcome Dark Times, but what I'm really going to share is how I personally have overcome dark times. So in a recent video that was featuring a therapist, the therapist was talking about how a lot of people really don't care what men go through, and if they did care, then they would care about a whole lot of different things. And on that list, he covered something that had to do with men's mental health. By the way, this is going to be very male focused. And I spontaneously said to you guys, I said, hey, if any of you are going through something, you can email me at support@shishaz.com. And some of you did. There you go. We just heard some fireworks right there. But I read some of those emails, man. I read some of those emails, and a lot of those emails, some of them I could relate to, right? Some of those emails were just thanking me, saying, hey, I want you to know that for some men, the content that you produce is very inspiring, very helpful. A lot of the guys were married. Some of the guys were maybe coming out of a relationship, a bad relationship. I'm not going to share any personal stories, but a lot of guys were single as well. The bottom line is men do go through a lot of difficulty, a lot of dark times. And what I've realized through the past few years of running my channel is they don't have too many places where they could speak to somebody, and do keep a lot inside because they lack platforms where they could maybe share what they're going through, or community, or a brotherhood. And I'm glad that this has served as some sort of encouragement for men to keep going, to not feel alone in any capacity, right? Whatever's gotten you to your next day or through any type of dark time, I felt very, very thankful for having the platform that I did. But it also led me to think about this video, the video that I've been thinking for a while that I've had to make, which is, how do I personally deal with dark times? And it's about time I share that, because I don't think a lot of people on this channel really understand this particular point about my life that I'm about to make. When I look over my life and I try to find the consistent theme of how I have worked through dark times, I can only come to one conclusion. This has worked for me, and I'm in no way thinking that this will work for every man, because I just don't think everybody will accept what I have to say in this video. But regardless, it's the truth. And that one single thing is prayer. It's prayer. When I say prayer, I'm talking about my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus. Now, I really want to be clear here and let you know that this is not an attempt of me forcing my perspective or beliefs on anybody, right? Nobody at all. And the reason why I say that is because I grew up in a very, it's another fireworks there going off. I grew up in a very, very religious environment where I really felt like that happened way too often. And it wasn't until I had my own personal relationship experience with God that I just decided that no matter where I'm at in my life, I will always be better off if I keep God, if I keep that connection to God, if I can call out to Him. And that was the decision that I made. And I made that decision when I was fairly young. I'm 31 right now. It's probably like in my early teens when I made that decision. And so I went through life always knowing that I could call on God. I've never been on medication. I used to drink for a little bit, but haven't had a drink of alcohol. And why am I bringing up the alcohol? Why am I bringing up the medication? Well, because I think people have different ways of coping. Maybe you don't cope with alcohol, but somebody does, right? Maybe you don't cope with medication, but somebody does. But I had to sit down a few months ago and ask myself, how have I gotten to where I'm at? And how do I personally overcome dark times? And for me, the thing that's always worked, the thing that I go to is prayer. And I should say this too, along with prayer, there's one verse that I always remember. It's actually one that I repeat till this day, right? It comes from Isaiah 26:3. It says, he will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on him because he trusts in him. That verse is important to me because sometimes some situations don't have a solution. And the only thing that you're left with is, can I handle the pain for as long as it lasts? Can I get through this? Will I be okay? And that verse, when I pray, always reminds me that God will always keep me in perfect peace when I call on him, no matter what. And he hasn't failed me till this day. Till this day. Now, I know some of you are asking, oh man, Chisha, you're trying to preach, you're trying to get us to believe in God, or maybe you already do, right? Maybe you already do. That's not my point. Believe it or not, guys, I grew up going door to door, right? You guys know the people that go door to door and they come and they knock on your door and they ask you if you want Jesus in your life. And I look back at that and I think to myself, why should any of those people care? Why should they care? Why should they care, right? Why should they care about prayer? Why should they care at all? Because growing up in the church, and I told you guys I grew up in the church, one thing I've always known was missing when it comes to people who you may feel like are trying to push God on you is, hey, I'm in pain, right? I'm going through things. Unless if you're able to relieve the pain that I'm going through, why should I care about anything Jesus has to say or anything about prayer or any of that at all? I don't care. Why should I care? And I agree, you know. And the only reason I personally care and I continue to pray, and that continues to be the way that I get through dark times, is because God has worked in my life personally. And so I don't know how you get through dark times. I don't know what's helping you out. But this is how I've gotten through dark times. And this is how I plan to get through my dark times going forward, is I get on my knees, I ask God for strength, wisdom, but mostly peace. And he gives it to me, and I keep pushing forward. Now, in addition to that, I also try to keep good people around me, keep good relationships around me. You know, the other thing too is I always ask myself a simple question, because one thing I always think about is how sometimes we skip the small things, right? People aren't sleeping enough. People don't exercise. People aren't doing the basic things, and they really don't realize how much this affects them mentally. The lack of goals, the lack of purpose, the friends that you keep in your life. It's a good idea to pay attention to those things too. Now, with that being said, I am in no ways the perfect Christian. I'm in no ways somebody who thinks that I am better than anybody else. I do not. But I want to ask you guys, how do you get through your dark times? How have you gotten through your darkest times? What do? Do you journal? Do you maybe have somebody, a confidant that you talk to? Maybe you have a therapist. Maybe you pray, right? Comment down below. I'm curious to know. Hope you guys are doing well. Talk soon. Till next time.